Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I made a video a couple of months ago and it was entitled Where's John Fury? And this was just after Fury had lost to Usyk. And it wasn't really that surprising, not to me anyway, that John Fury, was quiet afterwards because all the endless amount of bluster that we'd seen over the previous few years and the constant proclamations that his son was the greatest ever heavyweight and no one can beat my son and all this, and suddenly his son gets beaten by a man that Tyson Fury described as a middleweight, which of course he wasn't. It hasn't been for 20 years, but Usyk is, as you could see in that fight, a much smaller man than Tyson Fury. Everyone else is, aren't they? I mean, Tyson Fury is a huge man, and the fact that he did lose obviously put John's nose out of joint. But I thought John Fury, he loves the limelight. He loves being the centre of attention. He loves being the loudest voice in the room. So probably in a couple of months, he'll be back on the wagon, sort of mouthing off and making all sorts of excuses for his son losing and saying that his son's going to destroy Usyk in the rematch and so on and so forth. And unless I've missed something, and there is a lot of stuff out there. I don't get to, listen to every single interview on YouTube or article on YouTube, But unless I've missed something, John has still been silent. He is nowhere to be heard from. Now, you have to ask the question, well, why is this? And I think this is just pure speculation. So you can tell me if you think I'm talking nonsense, or you can tell me if you agree with me, or you've got your own ideas. Let's hear them. But I think it's a mixture of, someone whose ego has been popped and therefore hides, essentially. When they're on top, when they're a front runner, they've got it all to say. When something happens where they simply cannot deny what's happened, when something factual happens, like Usyk beating Tyson, when there is no way to spin things, when there is no alternative, and when you've been proven wrong, someone can beat your son, John. Look, it's just happened. When that happens, someone like John Fury, who is so vicariously living through his son, or was anyway, he's going to shrink. That is to say, his ego has been popped, so he's going to back down and, all right, radio silence and all the rest of it. But I also think that, behind the scenes, probably there is some sort of friction between John and his son. I would guess that. Don't forget, John wasn't happy with the way things were going in camp prior to the Usyk fight. He was quite vocal in that. He was also one of the 3 voices, at least, possibly 4, that were in the corner shouting advice at Tyson. Certainly after the 9th round, where Tyson was all but knocked out, there was that, chaotic panic. I mean, we've been through this before, and we've said it before, that, in a corner, especially during a time of crisis, you have to have one voice, and other people should be there to shut up and do their jobs. So if you're dealing with a cut, you deal with the cut. You don't say anything to the fighter. The chief second is the one that should speak. Peter Fury has talked an awful lot about this. He's not the only one, and I think he's absolutely correct when he says that. So I think possibly there was some friction there. There is a school of thought that John always wanted to be head trainer. Ultimately, that's what he wanted to do. I mean, I know he trains Tommy, for what it's worth. He's more of a misfits character, isn't he, than a proper professional boxer. But he gets in the ring and he fights, so I'm not going to slag the guy off too badly. And the fact that, and I must be honest, I'm quite surprised about this, that Tyson Fury has retained the services of Sugar Hill. I'm a little bit surprised, because I thought Sugar Hill might say, right, you've lost, I've done my bit, see you later. But there again, there's a lot of money to be made from a second fight, if it happens. I did a video very recently about that subject. It might not happen, of course. A lot of people seem to agree with that possibility. But I am surprised that Tyson Fury retains Sugar Hill Services. And I think John might have been waiting for Sugar to leave the fold, and then he could step in and make a power play for the head trainer position. This sounds all very Machiavellian, doesn't it? It's all very, like the Borgias or something. But I don't know. I think that I think that I know John loves his son, and I'm not trying to come between a father and his son, because that would be wrong. But I think Tyson probably is better off if John is in the background. Let's put it that way. Not saying anything, not constantly sticking his beak in, not constantly talking to the press. Because Tyson must have at some point thought, oh, what's he done now? Like when John headbutted that Ukrainian guy, just for no reason at all, and ended up with a cut on his forehead. It was all silly, wasn't it? And John is full of bluster and piss and wind, and in a room full of YouTubers, or kids. But when there's some real faces there, when there's people who are genuinely big lads who've had a couple of roll-arounds on the cobbles themselves, John tends to be a little bit quieter. And he's never been quieter, has he? He's never been quieter. Maybe he kind of knows if I come out and start talking, A, it's going to piss Tyson off, but B, I'm going to end up looking like a fool, because ultimately Tyson did lose that first fight. But I am a little surprised that John hasn't come out and, tried to spin it that Tyson actually won that fight, because certain other people have, haven't they? They've said, oh, no, Tyson won that fight. I mean, Frank Warren said it was a really close fight. Usyk clearly won that fight. Although Tyson had his moments, like in the middle of the fight when he had that little purple patch, we had that fantastic uppercut and he was putting it on Usyk, and you thought, this is interesting. He might, maybe the weight, but the size does matter. Maybe that the superiority in range is going to take its toll, but it didn't, because a couple of rounds later he was on the floor and on the verge of getting stopped. And that couldn't have been good for John to watch that. But look, what do you think? Do you think, what reason is there that John is quiet? Do you think he's been almost ostracised from the Tyson Fury camp? No, go away, mate. Stay in the background. You're too much of a pain in the arse. And shut up. Stop making these stupid proclamations on, for IFL TV or whatever. We're saying that this XYZ is going to happen. There's also the possibility that John doesn't believe his son will win the rematch. So he's not going to come out and start blustering again, because he thinks maybe he's genuinely surprised that Tyson lost the first fight, and he thinks, I think he's going to lose the second one. So he's not going to come out and say Tyson's going to win this. He's going to splatter Usyk all over the place. And, the reason he lost the first fight was because of ABC. And maybe he's not doing that because he thinks Usyk's got his number. I wonder. You tell me what you think. Give me your opinions. Comments below, of course. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and please hit the like button, because you're helping the channel out and it costs you nothing, doesn't it? But I do appreciate your time as always. Thank you very much for listening, and bye for now.